So you've signed up for your first Spartan race. Well, after having completed well over 25 Spartan races, I can tell you, you made an awesome decision, but let me save you a lot of heartache, a lot of potential injury, and a lot of just frustration when it comes to running Spartan races. In today's video, I want to give you 7 underrated tips when it comes to actually doing a Spartan race, completing it, and enjoying it along the way. My name's Josiah Novak, and I run a company called The True Transformation. And we help guys ultimately master this whole thing called health and fitness. And at the end of the day, a lot of our clients lose weight, look like a Greek god, but ultimately decide, hey, I don't want to stop there, because let's face it, if you just go to the gym to maintain abs and maintain a lean body fat percentage, you're going to get a little bit burned out. You'll probably lose interest over time. So we got to have other things to go after. And the Spartan race has been that thing for me and tons of the clients that I've worked with over the years that just need that next checkpoint, that next thing to go after. So I'm not telling you got to do Spartan races to get in shape, but I'll tell you, doing a Spartan race will absolutely improve your health and fitness and ultimately improve this up here, that comfort zone that we're so used to being in. We can expand it and we can get really uncomfortable doing things like a Spartan. So let's jump into tip number 1 when it comes to completing your first Spartan race. Now, this might seem obvious, but Spartan comes with running. And a lot of you just have never actually gotten better as a runner. And I'll just raise my hand and say, I was there not that long ago. I had played sports most of my high school career, done a lot of running for that, but I'd never actually learned how to get better at running. And there's a number 1 lesson when it comes to getting better at running, whether you're running a marathon, a 10K, or in this case, a Spartan race, that it took me a long time to actually learn, and not only learn, but understand how to implement in my training. And that lesson is this: most of your runs need to be at a low intensity. Zone 2, below your anaerobic threshold. You'll hear these terms get thrown out, and you might be wondering, like, what does that even mean? Well, at the end of the day, we all have heart rate training zones, and we have what's called an anaerobic threshold. And this is basically where your body goes from utilizing oxygen really effectively, burning fat for fuel, to burning through your sugar storage and crossing that line and having a really hard time using oxygen to fuel the body. And when that happens, the body gets stressed out, right? And you're not able to sustain this anaerobic running for long periods of time. This is why you start to get hurt, your body starts to break down, you slow down, your breathing gets crazy, your heart rate just gets super jacked up. And if you're out in the middle of a Spartan race when it's hot, you're running outside, you're running hills, you're doing obstacles, well, this can be a major problem. So what we want to do is we want to get better at running in our aerobic zone, meaning we want to get better at running at a lower heart rate. This just simply takes practice. And a lot of people don't have the patience to train in this aerobic zone for long periods of time. Why? Because we want to get out and we want to run fast, right? We want to get the running over with. We want to complete our workout for the day. I was just like you, where I would go out and I would try to set new PRs with my running all the time. So what ended up happening was I started getting a lot of running injuries. I started noticing that I was feeling really run down after my runs, and I wouldn't want to run for like 3 or 4 days after every single run. It wasn't until, you'll never guess, I invested in a running coach who actually taught me how to systematically and properly set up my training for running, no matter what goal I'm after, whether it's a Spartan race, whether it's a high rocks, or if I'm just going out and trying to run a 10K, learning how to properly run is an important part of the whole game plan. So how does this apply to Spartan? Well, you're gonna need to be running a lot to prepare for your Spartan race. I would suggest 3 running workouts per week. We'll talk more specifically here in a minute about how to actually set that up. But most of your runs, I would say about 80%, should be at a lower heart rate if at all possible. And this might mean you have to walk sometimes. This might mean you have to do a very slow jog. We're talking 11-minute, 12-minute miles in some cases. But the good news is it won't last forever. You'll ultimately start to get way faster as you stick to the game plan. Your body will adapt. You'll be able to run faster, longer, and with better form, less injuries, all that stuff at a lower heart rate. So once you get out on the Spartan race course, you'll be at a huge advantage because you'll be able to sustain your running way more effectively at a lower heart rate, which allows you to push through some of these challenges that will be coming your way every quarter mile or so. So tip number 2 is how to set up your running training for a Spartan. So let's break down the Spartan race in really simple terms. You have a lot of just straightforward running where you're running through woods, muddy areas, hills, up and down hills, And then of course you're running after you complete some of these really challenging obstacles. So there's straightforward running, which will be knocked out with our aerobic running training that we're gonna do about 80% of the time. And then we have what's called compromise running. And this is where you're running under duress. And this would be a situation where you run up to a Spartan Race obstacle, you complete the obstacle, your heart rate goes through the roof because you're having to utilize strength, muscle, and all of a sudden your heart rate's really high and you have to get right back to your run. So that's called compromise running. And we can train for that too. And that's gonna be like our 20 to 30% of our runs so that we're able to, once again, get our heart rate under control. So how do we set up our running? Well, I would have 2 main running workouts per week that are lower intensity, all right? So we're talking about keeping your heart rate down, under your anaerobic threshold in zone 2. This will look different for everybody. So an easy way to kind of figure out where we want our max heart rate to be in this zone 2 training is to take 180 minus your age. So if you're 40 years old, that would be 140. And that's the beats per minute that we're kind of aiming for, right? Another rule of thumb would be when we're running, we want to be able to hold a conversation relatively easily. You're going to feel like it's easy, and that's the point, right? It shouldn't feel that hard. 140 beats per minute for a 40-year-old would be a really good average heart rate on some of these zone 2 runs. So just take your age, subtract it from 180, that'll get you in the right place. There's a lot of formulas online that you can look this stuff up. The most accurate way to figure out your heart rate training zones, go get a VO2 max test. I've done a VO2 max test, actually did one recently, and I was able to figure out my zones, and it's really helped my training. So most of my running takes place between 135 beats per minute and 155 beats per minute. That's where I stay for my zone 2 runs. Now, of course, you have your compromise running. So potentially there could be 4 days of running that you include, but what our compromise running is typically going to look like is we're going to have Spartan specific workouts that involve doing things that get you ready for the obstacles and include running intermittently throughout the workout. So think about like a functional hybrid style workout where you're doing something like burpees or bucket carries, which we'll talk about in a minute, and then you go out for a distance of run at a faster pace. So we're looking for like zone 3, zone 4, even getting close to your max heart rate for short periods of time. Now the key here during your compromised running workouts is to understand that you will need recovery time. So typically the most well-programmed training routine is going to have something like a burpee or a bucket carry or some kind of pull-ups to work on your grip strength, followed by a run, and then maybe another obstacle of some kind, followed by rest. Okay, so we can once again train your heart rate to come back down and recover in between some of these more intense sessions. So if we're setting up a workout plan, I would have one really long, easy run. Typically do that on the day that you would be normally doing the Spartan. So for a lot of you, that's going to be a Saturday morning. Sometimes Spartan has a 2-day event, so it might be a Sunday morning. But either way, you want to have your long workout on the same day every single week, followed by 2 days of recovery, and then another longer, but not as long run at an easy pace with a day of recovery before you do your high intensity training session. Now you might do 2 high intensity training sessions as you get further into Spartan training, but this will be individual dependent, right? You may not be able to handle that. There's some tips and tricks. I'll throw in a really, really good one at the end, so make sure you stay till the end where I show you how to not have to run and still get your body ready for running. Huge tip, it's helped me out a ton. Make sure you stay to the end, but let's go to tip number 3. All right, so tip number 3, one thing I can guarantee that will be in every single Spartan race, well, there's a lot of things that'll be in every single Spartan race, but I can promise you there will be some version of a heavy carry. And typically there's gonna be at least 2. One would be a bucket carry where you're gonna pick up a heavy bucket, like the one I have right here, where then you'll have to run a distance with that bucket. It varies. Usually you'll end up running a little bit under a mile, usually like half a mile with the bucket before dropping the bucket and then continuing on with the race. Then you'll run into another carry where it's usually a sandbag, or now they're doing these like almost like sand, like small duffels that you'll have to once again carry and run while you carry it for a certain period of time. So how do you get prepared for these carries? Well, if you don't have a bucket, the good news is you can go to your local Lowe's like I have here, or Home Depot, or pretty much any home improvement area, or even like a Target or Walmart, and they sell these buckets. You can rip this little handle off if you wanted to. I still have it just because I want to be able to lift it up easier. And then just fill it with something like rocks like I have here, or dirt. anything that makes it pretty darn heavy, because I'll tell you right now, every bucket that you'll pick up at a Spartan will be a different weight. So I can't give you an exact amount that's in the bucket, but I'll just tell you, fill it up about 3/4 of the way full with either rocks or dirt, and I promise you it'll be heavy enough to train with. This is an important tool to have at your disposal, because not only will you get prepared for the bucket carry, you'll get prepared for the sandbag carry too, because carrying something heavy while running, it sucks, and the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. But the other thing is you now have an easy training tool to put into your more intense workouts. Because at the end of the day, not everybody has access. In fact, I would say most people don't have access to all the obstacles that you're gonna run into. Things like the monkey bars, you know, things like the rings, things like bender, all these weird names, you know, a spear throw. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I don't live in a place where I could just set up a whole Spartan course, right? So I have to do what I can do. And this is the kind of stuff that you can pick up at your store, and at least you'll go into your first Spartan prepared for a lot of the stuff that's coming your way. So an easy way to start training with the bucket, and I'll share with you my 2 favorite ways of carrying the bucket. The first way is just the hug, right? So we're gonna take the bucket and we're gonna wrap our 2 arms around it. And for those of you who are gonna be at a fast-paced walk when you're doing this, because you just can't handle a heavy bucket carry while running yet, this is the form you're looking for. So it's just a nice slow jog, 1 foot in front of the other. It's just keeping your arms locked like this, squeezing the bucket to your chest, and you're going as fast as you can. That's a good place to start. And honestly, you'll be doing a lot better than most people out on the course, because most people are gonna pick up that bucket and be like, holy crap. Now, the other way requires understanding a couple tips and tricks. Some of the buckets that you'll pick up at the Spartan race, the lid is a little bit loose. So if your bucket spills open, you have to go back and get a new one. You don't wanna do that halfway through the bucket carry. So just do a double check. I always like to pound the lid down as I pick it up, just make sure it's good to go. Don't pick one up that's like halfway open. At least just double check that it's closed, because the second way of carrying a bucket is gonna be over your shoulder. Now, another trick is the lid should never go behind you. Make sure it goes in front, so that at worst, if you start to feel it open up, it's in front. You can quickly grab it and prevent the spill that would destroy your race. So I like to carry the bucket on my shoulder, and then I'm just running like this. So that's my 2 favorite ways of carrying the bucket. Sometimes in a longer race, like a beast, because there's 3 variations of the Spartan. There's the sprint, the short one, the 10K, which is the super, and then you have the beast, which is a whole different animal by itself. Sometimes you just need a little bit of a break when you reach these carries. So you might choose the easier hug option, or if it's a sprint, I highly suggest putting it on the shoulder, busting your butt, getting through it, and moving on to the next. Now, in terms of the sandbag, so sometimes you'll get the bigger sandbags that go across your shoulders, but I honestly do the same thing as the bucket carry. I just throw it over my shoulder and I run. Now, like I said before, some of you might not be ready for that, so you could easily do the hug with the sandbag too. Just know it's a little more flimsy, might be a little slippery compared to the bucket, but practicing out in conditions where you'll be similar to the Spartan race will have you fully prepared for this one. All right, tip number 4 is our least favorite part of the Spartan race, at least for me, and that is burpees. Now, as you become a seasoned veteran of Spartan, you probably run into a situation where you don't have to worry about burpees, because you know how to complete every single obstacle, you have the grip strength, and the good news is Spartan has changed some of the rules now to where if you miss the spear throw, which even the best in the game miss the spear throw all the time, you don't have to do burpees. You have to do another lap. So there's a lap area around the spear throw, and you got to go run an extra lap. It definitely costs you time, definitely costs you more energy, but you don't have to worry about the burpees. So I'll never forget one of my most memorable Spartan races was after I tore my bicep running a Spartan race. And then about a half year, 6 to 8 months later, I was back out doing Spartans like a crazy person, because I can't stop doing all this fitness stuff. So I couldn't do a lot of the obstacles back then because my arm was still healing, but I had to get out there and run. So I did a ton of burpees. And what I can tell you is the more you do burpees, the more you get better at them. It doesn't mean they ever stop sucking, because they definitely always suck, but your body will just get used to the motion and you'll get used to the momentum you need to build with a burpee. So this tip is probably the most straightforward one of the video. And it's simply this: always include burpees in your more intense Spartan workouts, even if it's a cash in and cash out type of style. What do I mean by that? You come to wherever you're gonna work out, like we have today in this beautiful outdoor trail area, and you just start the day with burpees. It may not even be a part of the main workout. You just go, I'm gonna pick a number and I'm gonna knock it out, and then I'm gonna get into my workout. That's the cash in. The cash out is, I'm gonna finish the day with burpees. A little trick for you as you lead up to the Spartan race: count the weeks that you have till your Spartan race. And then every single week, you're gonna add 10 burpees to your cash in and cash out. So you start with just 10. So I'm gonna do 10 burpees, then get into whatever the workout is for the day. And the workout, if programmed correctly, might have some burpees in there, just so you're prepared in case you missed an obstacle. But then at the end of the workout, when it's done and I'm cooling down, I'm gonna do another 10 burpees. But then next week, I'm gonna do 20 and 20, and then I'm gonna do 30 and 30. And before you know it, you might do 100 to start the workout and then 100 to finish. I know it sounds crazy because thinking about that level is a little bit intimidating, but I promise you this: if you're going into your Spartan race doing 100 burpees to start and 100 burpees to finish most workouts, not only will you be prepared for the worst case scenario where you have to do burpees, but you'll also be really conditioned and you'll be stronger, and your body will be way more prepared for the brutal training that is ahead, or at least the workout that is ahead being in a Spartan race. So take that to the bank, do your burpees, cash in, cash out. Promise you, you'll be fully prepared. All right, so tip number 5 is also something that I promise you is guaranteed when it comes to a Spartan race, and that is having your grip and pull strength be tested. There's nothing like a Spartan race to test your grip and to test your pull-up strength. There's probably at least 8 to 10 obstacles that will require pulling yourself up over something or going from side to side in a pull-up style motion. I won't cover all the obstacles on today's video. That would be another video entirely, and maybe multiple videos that we would need to put together for you. And maybe we will. So leave a comment if you want to see a video on how to do every single obstacle properly. I'll happily work on putting that together for you. Just comment below the video. But here's the deal. There is a simple exercise, and this is once again a straightforward thing that you can do in every single workout. It's called hand switches. Basically what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to find a pull-up bar wherever you train, at your gym, at home, and all you're gonna do is put your hands on the pull-up bar and start to switch your grip over and over for an extended period of time. So this might start by doing it for 30 seconds. It might start by doing it for 15 seconds if it's all you can handle. But ultimately what we're trying to do here is get uncomfortable hanging from something like a bar and then switching our hands so that we mimic the Spartan race. I show you in the video here on how to do it, but ultimately what we're after is similar to the burpees. We want to get better at time with this exercise, because when you're out on the course and you're tired, you're not necessarily going to be able to fly right through some of these obstacles. You're going to be on the monkey bars for 30 seconds. You're going to be on the swing with the rings for maybe 30 to 45 seconds. The faster you can get through those, the better. And the only way to get better at that stuff is working on switching your grip and keeping that strong grip and pull-up strength in place. Now, you could also add to this pull-ups, similar to the burpees. You could pick a number that you start your workout with. I wouldn't do it every single time because training your muscle under duress requires a little bit more recovery than something like a burpee. And if you're doing 1,000 push-ups a week, you might run into some tendonitis issues and elbow issues and stuff like that. So what I would still do though is twice a week or 3 times a week, I would pick a pull-up number and I would knock it out before my workout. And then maybe if you want to add a little bit at the end. But all we're trying to do, once again, is build our pull-up endurance, build our pull-up resilience, and understand that when we're out there, we're gonna need a lot of pull-up strength and a lot of grip strength. The other thing you can do is fill up a bucket similar to the one that I was using for bucket carries, fill it up with rice. And you might be like, what are we talking about here? I thought this was a Spartan video. Which bucket are we talking about? So at the end of the day, I learned this from being a baseball player for many, many years. There's this really cool exercise that pitchers do to strengthen their grip on the baseball. It's called rice pulls. And so you fill up a bucket full of rice, you put your hand all the way up to about as deep as you can, so halfway up your forearm, and you just squeeze the rice as hard as you can. You try to hold on to the rice, squeezing over and over again. You will be shocked at how pumped your forearms get by doing this rice exercise. Rice squeeze over and over again for, let's call it a minute, 2 minutes. Your hands and your arms will be so pumped the muscles in your hands, the muscles in your forearms will get used like never before. Add that one to your repertoire. The other one I would add is go on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description below with some of my favorite ones, but you can get hand grip exercise tools where you could be at your desk and you could be squeezing a hand grip tool to just strengthen that hand muscle and forearm muscle. This, once again, is going the extra mile, right? So it might be something that you don't do, and this time it's just like, hey, I'm gonna stick to the basics, I'm not gonna do this stuff. That's totally fine. This might be something you add as you continue on as Spartan. Just keep it at your desk, easy tool just to pick up a few times a day, get a minute of squeezes in, and over time, this will compound and your grip will get better. Let's move on to the next tip. Hey, so if you made it this far in the video, I have a full-blown Spartan training program that I've put together after doing countless Spartans, all different lengths, over the past 7 years. So go to the link below. You can just see it's Spartan Ready Training Programs. You can go check out one, grab it, start training right now with a lot of these tips, but built in a more systemized and functional fashion. So go check that out. And if you like the video so far, make sure you like the video. And let's finish up with arguably two of the most important tips. Tip number 6 is find hills. Now, you may not live in a hilly area, so this may or may not work for you, but I have a solution if you don't have hills nearby. I'm fortunate enough to where I live in Virginia, and we have not the biggest, steepest hills on earth, but hills nonetheless. Hills that I can get out and I can run. So the best thing to do is Google trail running in your area, and typically trails come with some hills. Obviously, there's things to worry about like animals and snakes and all that stuff. So if you're worried about that stuff, bring a friend, drag them into a Spartan race with you. They'll thank you once they cross the finish line, or maybe they won't. But either way, you'll have some safety out on the hills. But find some trails to run. Also, find trails, right? So even if they're not hilly, find trails, because you're gonna need to get used to terrain that's not the street, that's not the treadmill, that's a little bit more dangerous. You gotta deal with ankle mobility, stepping on rocks, that kind of stuff. So this is the perfect area to get ready for a Spartan. That's tip number 6. So I promised you one of the most valuable tips I've learned, and this is a relatively recent one that I've implemented myself, but I'm susceptible to running injuries. And so as you start to run a lot for a Spartan or a high rocks or whatever you're doing, even just a 10K, running injuries can be part of the game, and they're a really unfortunate part of the game. So how do you avoid running injuries but still get better at running? Enter the stationary bike. The stationary bike has been a lifesaver for me. This has changed the game when it comes to preparing my body and my heart rate to run better. So how do we use a stationary bike? Well, a simple rule of thumb is this: a stationary bike on very low resistance, pedaling at a 85 to 100 RPM, so it's just repetitions per minute, getting your legs turning, mimics the same motion that you'll be doing when you run. So for every 2 minutes on the bike, it's about 30 seconds to a minute running. So if you go on the bike for 40 minutes, it's like going out for a 15 to 20 minute run. So yes, the only downside to this is it does take time. But I can promise you this: if you implement it even just a little bit to help subsidize some of your running that you would normally do, if you know, hey, my body starts to run into injuries when I cross over 10 miles a week of running. Cool, so you get your 10 miles of running in over time. Obviously, you may not jump to that right away. But if you notice that there's a threshold that you're running into injuries, well, all I would do to increase running volume is just add time on the bike on top of your running. I promise you, you will notice not only that your body gets better at conditioning, better at running, heart rate starts to stay lower, but you'll run faster. Your legs will feel fresher because you're not out running as much, but you're still getting the benefit for your system, your cardiovascular system, your endurance. So implement the bike if you struggle to run more. And then over time, you might replace some of the bike with more running as you can handle more beating on your legs. The bike has just been a massive tool for me, so add that one to your repertoire. All right, guys, that wraps up today's video. Spartan is one of my favorite fitness challenges that you can put into your life. You don't have to do it to get in shape. You don't have to do it to be a Spartan champion, but get uncomfortable. Use this body, right? The body that you're working so hard to improve, your health, your fitness, your body fat levels. Go out and use your physique. Go out and test yourself. I promise you, you'll never regret crossing a finish line at a Spartan or any other fitness challenge. If you need more help getting prepared for a Spartan, like I said before, we have Spartan programs. Go check out the link in the description. We also have our full-blown True Transformation program where we help people master this whole thing called health and fitness without giving up their family, work, or social life building a whole holistic routine around physical, mental, and spiritual health. Check that out in the description below. If all you want is free fitness tips or Spartan tips, then great, you're in the right place. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll talk to you on the next one. Life moves fast, make it count. Peace.